Okay,
Okay.
we should be set.
Thank you, Summer. Thanks everyone for coming together tonight for our regular city council meeting on March 23rd, 2021. We just had our pre-council workshop and now we are entering into our regular city council meeting here at 7:04 p.m. And we are on section 2 of our agenda, 2-1 call to order and roll call attendance. So I will call this meeting to order. And Summer, can you take us through a roll call, please?
Yep, we have Mayor Emily Niehaus, Ronnie Dresser, Moab City Council, Kaylin Jones, Moab City Council, Harley Castle, Assistant City Manager, Joel Linares, City Manager, Karen Guzman-Newton, Moab City Council, Lori Simonson, City Attorney, Mike Duncan, Moab City Council, and Tawny Knudsen-Boyd, Moab City Council.
Thank you so much. Section 3 is citizens to be heard. Section 4 is public hearing. And section 4.1 and 4.2 are both separate public hearings. For the sanity of all of us coming together, what I would like to do now is request a motion to open both public hearings, 4.1 and 4.2. And then what I would like to do is call on those who are zooming in to join us to share their name and then to share what they are zooming in to speak on. So, Tawny?
I'll make a motion to open public hearings.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kaylin. Discussion? We're all in understanding that this opens both public hearings. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. We are now in citizens to be heard and our public hearing. So I'm just going to go through with who is on my screen one at a time. Liz Ballinger, welcome to our meeting. Thank you for zooming in. But do please say your full name and if you are zooming in as a citizen to be heard for the general section or for the public hearing, either public.
Yes, I'm Liz Ballinger and I'm here for citizens to be heard. Thank you. And is it 2 minutes? I missed that part though.
Yes, okay. A generous 2 minutes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, in case any of you are wavering in your support for the resolution about the bypass tonight, I just wanted to speak briefly on that. I fully support it. And with full disclosure, I'll state that I do live in Mountain View neighborhood, so obviously have a strong feeling on the subject. However, I put strong feelings aside tonight and speak again to the logic supporting this resolution. We've all looked at the traffic issues in Moab enough now to understand that it's tourists, not trucks or through traffic, that are causing congestion downtown. A bypass will make truckers happy, and I'd like to see semis off Main Street as much as anyone, but not at the expense of our neighborhoods, not at the expense of losing recreational trails like Pipe Dream, and certainly not at the expense of the peace and quiet that we're already sadly lacking a lot of the year here, since we know that highway speed traffic echoing off the West Rim will only exacerbate our existing noise issues. Now you may be thinking, let's just amend this resolution and oppose any bad ideas that impact our neighborhoods. That way we could leave the potential for a magical bypass on the table. Sure, everybody loves the magical bypass idea, one that could tunnel under Main Street or maybe behind the West Rim. But let's be realistic here. Even when these ideas were brought up repeatedly to UDOT and their contractors, they never seriously considered them. They continue to reference the bad options presented in the Fair and Pierce study. UDOT has built highways next to people's homes on the Wasatch Front in Price and many other places across the state. Do we really think that they'd support a super expensive magical bypass in little old Moab? Stating your opposition to bad bypass ideas isn't enough, because keeping a bypass in the transportation plan at this point gives UDOT the green light, so to speak, for continuing to study it, continuing to push what they see as the most feasible options in the future. And future councils and commissions might not be as supportive as you guys are and fight as hard for communities as you guys do for us. Adopting this resolution now will send a clear message that we are focused on trying to solve the root causes of Moab's traffic problems. Keeping the bypass in the transportation plan will just continue the distraction caused by this contentious idea, and it will also send a really mixed message now that the county has adopted a resolution against it in the transportation plan. So please move forward in unison with the county. using the interlocal agreement tool that you're also considering tonight. I thought that was cool. And also just briefly for 5 seconds, want to thank you for pursuing a resolution supporting construction of more Colorado River pathway. So thanks. That's all.
Thank you so much for zooming in and for your comments tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work.
And next we have Catherine Fay.
Can you hear me? I'm still new at this computer stuff.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead and give us your full name and
Okay,
then
my
let
name
us know what you're calling to speak about.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Catherine Fay Holyoke, and I'm with the Citizens to Be Heard. And this is my comment. I am not for a bypass in town like the studies that have already been done. I would consider one that has never been even mentioned, and it's that of going below the cliffs on the south side behind Mountain View, Dock Allen Drive, and my own personal backyard, but not my side yard and front yard. I am not for Plan 1D that puts the ongress right through my personal property and would wipe out the access of any kind to our A&E electric business. All the plans say the access is near Dogwood Avenue, but that is not correct. It is right through my personal property. This is also not a good plan because it would back up trucks between the stoplight on 4th East and approximately 956 South Main where the access is shown. I also do not think King Creek Boulevard is a very good access either. If there is a true bypass, it should do just that, pass by and out of the city. It makes sense to have it completely out of town. One below the cliffs could not only access USU College, but also Spanish Valley area. That is the only place that this area can grow. I know the Mountain View homeowners don't want it there, but it needs to be up the hill farther, maybe closer than closer to the homes. Another opinion was to go behind the cliffs down Potash Road and back out King Springs, excuse me, which seems logistically impossible, but I saw I-70 built across the desert when I was in high school, and no one imagined that that could even be done. Traffic on Main Street is dangerous and something does need to be done. So do I want to see a bypass? So do I want to see no bypass? No, but by just saying you don't want anything in the future, like the county council said that the decision is done, really isn't an option either, because the town has grown exponentially and something needs to be done, but the studies that have been taken that just place it in town really aren't options. Maybe you can say we'll table the choice for 5 years, but that also means the cost would be more unbearable in the future. Hopefully you'll make a good decision to somehow get a better plan for a bypass in the future. I still really don't believe UDOT came up with the better plans. They have narrowed it down to 2 that are really not logical. Good luck, not in my personal yard, but further up the hill below the cliff makes sense. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for zooming in and for your comments tonight. We appreciate them. Okay, and next we have Constance.
Hi, my name is Constance Richford. Thank you, everyone, for having me. I'm here for Citizens to Be Heard. I also live in Mountain View. Like others, I'm here to ask you all to formally oppose the bypass. I want to thank, I watched a little bit of the pre-council workshop. I want to thank everyone who spoke out about that and for all the other work, and also Councilmember Jones for drafting the resolution. I recognize and share a lot of the frustration with the traffic and congestion that we have in Moab, but I think if we think a bypass is going to help that, we're kidding ourselves. Any kind of bypass. Just briefly, the support for that ignores 2 pretty key things. First, the source of the traffic, which is visitation. We are the destination. So as such, the 2 million or so visitors who come annually are not ever just going to pass on by on a bypass. Second, it ignores kind of this fundamental rule of traffic and urban planning, which is when you build bigger and better roads, people just drive more. This is pretty well documented. Like a recent example, I just was Googling in 2015, Los Angeles spent $1 billion widening one of their big highways. And today that commute time is as slow or slower than when they developed that project. It's actually called induced demand. So anyone who's curious about it, I had a little fun nerding out on infrastructure today. but you should Google it. The takeaway is you really can't build your way out of traffic problems. And I personally would love to see more of the creative solutions that I've heard discussed in other meetings. But really my point here is that we don't have to be the guinea pigs for that sort of thing in Moab. We can learn from other places, successes and mistakes. And finally, and most importantly, I think support for the bypass kind of ignores the huge human cost that routing commercial traffic through residential neighborhoods. I know a lot of people have spoken out against that in the past. And again, I thank you. In the interest of time, I won't list all the negative health outcomes for neighborhoods that are adjacent to commercial highways, but just briefly, cancer rates up, asthma up. Like right now, the Mountain View neighborhood where I live, like there's kids riding their bikes every day. I'm pretty new to the neighborhood, but my neighbor has been in his home for 50 years and he's not the only one on the block who's in that category. Just trying to paint a picture of what we would lose by cutting off that neighborhood. So yeah, the question's not really whether a bypass will alleviate traffic. I think the evidence is pretty clear that it will not. It's really more, are we willing to sacrifice like the health and happiness and financial stability of more than 100 or so Moab families, including me, for such tiny little gains? I hope not. I don't think I would wish that on any other neighborhood. And I, again, ask the council to formally declare your opposition. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for zooming in and for your comments tonight. Moving on to next, we have Neil Clark. Hi, Neil.
Hi, you think I'd figure this out by now? Thanks, everyone. I'm Neil Clark. I live in the Mountain View neighborhood, and I'm speaking in support of the bypass resolution. I was also the county appointed biking rep for the Regional Transportation Planning Stakeholder Group. And so I wanted to start by saying just a few things about that process. As a member of the group, I can tell you that a bypass was never the focal point of our long range planning discussions. You know, the few times that it came up, elected officials and other stakeholders clearly stated that it was contentious and that the alternatives presented that went through the Mountain View neighborhood were not widely supported. You know, Mayor Niehaus was pretty diplomatic in saying that it didn't meet expectations earlier this evening. You know, I'll be a little more blunt and say that it was just a flat out terrible process. I think it had, you know, very little to do with tapping local knowledge to develop solutions, and really feels like it had more to do with providing community cover for advancing projects that UDOT was already interested in. And so that said, though, the vast majority of those projects are non-controversial, and I think they'd be good for the community, and the bypass is really the big exception there. I also want to just speak to the National Environmental Policy Act, as it's something that I deal with daily, and it came up just at the end of the previous meeting. But you know, it's not the NEPA process is not a good way to develop solutions to a problem. That's not really how it works. It's a procedural statute, and it requires environmental analysis of proposed actions, but it does not necessarily just drive substantive outcomes. I think, you know, the idealistic view is that it helps agencies come to the best decision, but really more often than not, it's used as a way to justify a predetermined course of action. And so I just want to disabuse anyone of the idea that, you know, NEPA would be a good way to figure out how to deal with congestion or to analyze the best location for a bypass, because that's just really not how that works. It's kind of a track you get on that becomes very hard to get off of. And so the council now really has an opportunity to tell the community and UDOT that it supports the health and welfare of its residents. And that's by making it really clear that it does not support the bypass alternatives that will go through the Mountain View neighborhood. You know, this resolution does not preclude other creative alignments, although I admittedly wish it would. The bypass really seems to have taken on this myth as like a silver bullet that's going to fix all of our congestion woes. And because of that, it seems to siphon off resources and energy away from actually focusing on creative solutions that will help us now. You know, it feels like the Book Cliffs Highway all over again. And so with that in mind, I really encourage you to take a strong position by passing the resolution and, you know, hopefully, you know, put the two Mountain View alternatives to rest, you know, ideally for good. So thanks very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for zooming in and making comments tonight at our meeting. Thanks, Neil. Next is Michael Liss. Michael Liss, you are up. If this is dramatic pause so we can enjoy your profile picture, we'll
Can you
take-
hear me?
We can hear you now, yes.
Okay, cool. Hi, Mayor Emily. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
No, good. I don't practice dramatic pauses. I don't do Zoom very much. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I put a little picture of an ostrich with its head in the ground. I hope you can see it. You know, I like visual images because taking the bypass off the table of any discussion is ludicrous. If we want a real solution to a real problem, we look at all the alternatives. We don't know where it's going to end up. And it's sort of nice to see all the Mountain View people talking, but let's talk about the real issue here. We have a national highway running through our town. Any traffic from the Pacific Northwest, Idaho or Utah, going to New Mexico or Texas is going to go through Moab, Utah. Google map it, okay? So to say it's all tourists, those trucks are not tourists, okay? This problem is going to get bigger and bigger, and we can sit around talking about Band-Aid solutions, but you know, you're not the mayor of a hamlet. You're not the mayor of a village. You're not the mayor of a town. You're the mayor of a city. Who puts a highway through a city? Imagine what I sit at Love Muffin every morning and I can hardly talk to anyone. If you're going to do noise calculations for little OHVs running around the side streets, put them on Main Street. That's the real problem. By getting the traffic off Main Street, you will help the health, help the well-being of the entire community, of every business, of every person who goes to the post office, goes to the bank, shops, eat outs at a restaurant. There's one neighborhood that is going to be close to a bypass. And I agree with Mrs. Holyoke, good idea. It needs to bypass the whole town. And guess what? We'll set up a fund and we'll make sure you get full market value for your home. If you want to save the town, Mayor, you need to save the heart of the town, the soul of the town, so people can walk again and talk again and be in the center of our town. Then we can put a median into town with trees and crosswalks, something that we haven't been able to do for 40 years. This is a national highway, and we can talk about little Band-Aids, but by taking the bypass off the table unilaterally with no scientific study makes no sense to me. So I just wanted you to know that. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you for zooming in and for your illustration and your passion.
Thank you.
Next, we have Randy Larson.
I apologize, Mayor. I'm here for the bond hearing when that comes up, so I'll patiently wait. I have no comments on this one. I'm your bond counsel. I should have shown my face, but apologies for looking like a hearing participant.
No worries. Would you like to go in our waiting room?
Wherever Summer would like me to go would be just fine.
Well, thank you for letting me know. And Summer, I'll leave it up to you. It might be nice to give him some waiting room space. And Caitlin, I'm assuming you are also here for an agenda item and not for speaking at this time, correct?
No, I was just listening into the public hearing to see if we got any comments. So don't need to be here either.
Okay, well, Zoom you later. And Summer, let's just make sure there are no others waiting in the waiting room.
I only had Randy and Caitlin, and they are not there for citizens to be heard. So we do
Okay.
not have anyone else waiting.
It's probably also worth it to mention that we did have 7 citizens to be heard comments that were submitted to us online in written form. So thanks to those community members that submitted written comments for us. And seeing as that there are no others to be heard this evening, I would entertain a motion to close both public hearings at this time.
So moved.
Thank you, Kaylin. Is there a second, Ronnie?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Although I'm a little sad nobody wanted to talk about the bonds, but I'll
It's
spare you.
too late at night. We just want to talk about James Bond. Watch a movie. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor to close the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We will move right along to section 5 on our agenda, administrative reports. Joel.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to let Lori talk for just a minute and then I'll jump back in.
Sounds good. Where's my twin? There she is.
So thank you. I just wanted to update that I have been asked to look into updating a couple definitions in the Moab Municipal Code. A couple of the definitions are in Chapter 10, Vehicles and Traffic, the definition of cycle, which is at 10.08.010, and also in Moab Municipal Code, the Chapter 12 on Public Parks, the definition of motorized vehicle, which is at 12.20.005. I've been asked to look at updating those and evaluating, making those more in line with state code definitions and other definitions in federal regulations. And if people have an interest in corresponding or contacting me about that, I would welcome that input.
I will just follow up by saying I was the instigator of this ask because what I would like to do is bring to council an opportunity to answer the question of whether or not we would like to move forward with allowing e-bikes on our parkways. So not for discussion tonight, but for discussion in the future. And so Laurie is going to do that work so that we have a concrete conversation.
Right, and we're hoping to get that on an upcoming agenda, possibly the April 13th or the April 27th meeting.
And basically the finding, Laurie's finding is that if we would like to pursue the allowing e-bikes on the parkway, on our paths, on our bike paths, then it's a definition change. And that would be the only action that the council would have to take to say yes. But that we could follow up with some boundaries around that yes, if we chose to do so. But the first step would be a definition. So Laurie's gonna craft it up and bring it to us for that discussion. Thanks, Laurie.
You're welcome.
Back to you, Joel.
All right, we'll start with the easy stuff. The Leagues of Cities and Towns is having their mid-year conference in St. George, April 21st to the 23rd. I'm asking you six if any or all of you plan on attending that conference so we can make the proper arrangements.
Is it in person?
It's virtual or in person. So if you are vaccinated and still have all your masks in tow and still know how to stay away from people for a good distance, you can attend in person if you so wish.
Joel, before there was some discussion when we were going through budget that there really wasn't money for us to travel to do these conferences. Are we in a place where it is feasible again? Or, is that a discussion for another time?
No, it's we've saved pretty much all of our travel budgets for the last 13 months and haven't spent anything. The budget itself it's fine for where we've been. It's not like let's go fix our infrastructure problems, by no means, but this isn't making the difference on that list of things. So it's definitely okay if people want to attend this.
And is there a difference between, is there a price difference between attending in person or in, obviously they're probably, outside of a hotel room, is there a registration?
I have not, Karen, that's a great question. I haven't looked at the registration cost because until I knew how many of you were willing to or wanting to go, I didn't get into that side of it. I can look real quick.
No, we could do this later. I just was curious if, no problem.
Joel, this is Ronnie. I don't plan to attend in person. I will not be vaccinated by that point fully. But it's often nice to see the agenda to decide if one wants to participate online. Is that out yet? Sorry to be behind the times.
The agenda, there's 2 conferences going on. I looked at one of them yesterday.
Okay.
That was
They
for
are
the
starting to roll out some
Yeah,
information.
that was for the
Okay.
city managers one that they're doing. I
Yeah, I
not
might be
seen the
interested
agenda
in
for it
doing
yet.
some online, but what's the absolute drop date that we have to look at what's on the agenda?
April 20th.
Okay.
So we've taken steps to pseudo lock in stuff that's all, we can cancel it up until April 20th. And we can register you for the conference itself, I think, right up until the day of. So you have time to let us know if you want to wait and find out.
So you said the 21st through the 24th,
23rd.
23rd?
Yep.
I do intend to attend in person. I'll be fully vaccinated, and I think it's a good thing for us to have somebody there. Plus, I'm a board member, so I've got an annual board meeting there as well.
So Joel, I just want you to know that you're coming out in beautiful surround sound on my stereo headphones. I've never heard that before. It's much cleaner, it's much nicer, and I kept looking, gee, is he sitting right to my left? So sorry to bring all that up, but it sounds really good.
Well, I've been trying to make my Zoom a little better. I've actually been playing with my audio settings because I've had some complaints. So good to hear.
Kaylin, are we going to play a game of cornhole in St. George?
We might. I mean, that would be an appropriate starting first live conference. I will meet the 2-week post-vaccination requirement as well. And so I'd like to look at the schedule and think about how much value it offers in terms of before spending the money. But yeah.
So that sounds
I'm
great.
a maybe.
That sounds great. We have everyone, the hard part where we reserve rooms because it all fills up normally and gets hard to get rooms. We already did that, and like I said, we can cancel those up until April 20th at no charge. So, and we can register for the conference itself at any point. So lots of time to think about that, but you can jump on their webpage and see what they're offering and go from there. All right, that was the easy stuff. That was it. That was all the easy stuff I had. Everything else is not easy stuff. We discussed sewer rates pretty in depth last time. We have 2 different tracks happening with sewer. We have the government institution issue that we've been discussing and how we want to address that. We addressed that last time, and we've been working with Zions Bank on that. At the same time, we've been dealing with the budget. The sewer rates are set off of a 2009 resolution. In 2019 resolution. In 2019, we passed the moratorium on overnight accommodations, which we later put into the the land use code and made that permanent. When we built the wastewater treatment facility, the WRF, we secured our bonding with that through impact fees. And in 2019, when we stopped permitting hotels, and I think that gets lost in the conversation here quite a bit because people still see hotels being built, but we've not permitted a new hotel in over 2 years. And that means we're no longer collecting impact fees. And so we knew when we were going into that at some point that was going to catch up with our bond payments. And it's getting to that point where we need to address that bond payment issue as we go forward. So we have Zions finalizing the minor change, if we want to, for your consideration on government institutions and churches. But we also have Zions going through and doing a heavy look at our rates altogether to make that difference up in the loss of impact fees because of no longer having overnight accommodations. And so we're going to be bringing that to you at our next meeting, kind of both of those issues. And we're going to have some of those talks as well between now and then as I talk with you guys and provide you some of that information. So that's still out there. That's still coming. I have been meeting through Zoom with all of the OHV ATV rental companies in Moab. That has been really informative and has been really good. I've met with all of them at this point. I'm compiling everything I was told and trying to make that so it's presentable to you guys. At our next meeting, when we have our noise workshop, I'm going to present kind of that information of what they said and some of the ideas they have. at that time and bring you guys that information. We're also working on a strategic plan follow-up. We're working on making an outline and everything we talked about and presenting that and giving that to you guys in the next meeting as well. Red Hills, our lobbying firm that we hired at the last legislative session, is going to give an update on the legislative process at our next meeting. And so we have that coming as well. We are working hard on the widening project, even though it's not our project and we don't really have anything to do with it. Chuck and I have been really working with them for what this upcoming week looks like with the project still going. We're working to try and get lines painted on the asphalt that's laid already, get the construction barriers removed. We not quite sure what that looks like, so I don't want to cause a lot of confusion and say something that people take that's what's happening, but we're trying to get 3 lanes painted and potentially use 2 lanes coming into town and 1 lane going out of town for the majority of the week to try and stop the congestion across the bridge as people are coming into town, and then potentially use 2 lanes going out of town and 1 lane coming into town as the weekend ends for Jeep Safari to try and get that flow out of town quicker. So not sure what that's looking like yet, but we're working to try and get UDOT to work with us in order to limit that backup and everything that we see every weekend at this point already. I know it's been backing up across the bridge for about a month now on the weekends already. So trying to get the groundwork laid as to what Jeep Safari is going to look like and how we can avoid some of those major backup issues over that busy weekend. That's probably our busiest weekend of the year. If not, it's definitely right up there. Any questions on any of that so far?
Joel, I know you probably don't know the answer totally, but projected time frame for having 4 lanes, when?
Within the next 4 weeks is what I'm told.
Okay.
Now, I'm just the messenger, so if that doesn't happen, I apologize, but that's what I'm told. We're putting in the very last of the infrastructure. We're getting in the very last of the curb. Once the last of that infrastructure is tied in, crossing the street, and as you drive up and down the highway, as you're going out of town, out of the bridge, if you watch as you go along, there's certain sections where they're putting in the final pieces of infrastructure. There's not a curb poured yet. Until that curb gets in, there's not ribbon on both sides in order to pour the asphalt. As soon as that curbing is all finalized and in, that's all we're waiting for at this point. The vast majority of it is done. They're just finalizing a lot of that stuff and getting that final curve in, and that's the goal.
Joel, you're probably already in contact with them, but are you guys coordinating with emergency responders? I know like over the winter, there had been some work to try and figure out if there might be, some mechanism for them to have a clear path. So it's probably already on your radar, but if not, can you just make sure EMS and SAR and such know?
I absolutely can. Thank you, Ronnie, for that. That's a really good idea. I hadn't been doing that since the fall when it slowed down and kind of fallen off my radar. So I really do appreciate you letting me know that, and I'll get in touch with Andy. I know that a lot of their calls, they head out towards that region of the valley or that region of the county. So definitely can follow up with that. Anything else on any of that stuff?
Oh, thanks. I saw your email about budget timeline, and there were generally dates. So just a quick question about, is staff just going to be in touch with us for scheduling times?
Yep, and those dates, we're trying to keep them on Tuesdays because that's kind of what everyone is comfortable with. And so that's the idea. And that's basically identical to how we've done it in the past. So it's not anything really new. I mean, there's a couple things on there that aren't normally on there, but for the most part, that is the same type of schedule we've followed in the past, that many meetings. So very similar to years past. And there is a budget timeline that I've emailed out to everyone, and so you guys should see that in your inbox. And April 1st, the city code requires we will make the budget available by then, and then we'll start holding meetings in accordance with that schedule for working through it and getting it finalized. And we've been having several budget meetings a week. We're getting close to finalizing it. We have a little more adjustments to make. And like I said, right now our biggest heartburn is the sewer rate versus the lack of impact fees. Sewer is where we have the biggest heartburn by far right now. So the rest of it we can work through and should be okay. COVID update, City Hall is currently open to the public. We had an incident last week where we had to close, but we're open to the public. Still by appointment. If you can make an appointment, you're welcome to come in and pay. Masks are required. The mask mandate statewide expires April 10th. Talk is in Grand County that mask requirement is going to continue. That's a decision for the health department and the county, and we'll abide by whatever the ruling is. We are a business and we have the ability to set our own standards, and so regardless of how that goes with the county and the health department, masks will be required in City Hall. So we'll keep having mask requirements here. That's about all I have. I'll turn the time back over to the mayor if she wants to give any further updates.
Thanks, Joel. Well, just one more admin update and a discussion that I'd like to have with the council before we move into mayor and council reports is that we are zooming in for this meeting, but we are at this cusp between meeting via Zoom and resuming our meetings in person. I, for one, am quite excited to be back in person with all of you and get back to our new normal. What this would look like is potentially that our next meeting, we would have it in the city council chambers, and staff or council that did not feel comfortable can participate electronically. Depending on the participants that choose to participate electronically, we could do a hybrid video conference method, or we could just go back to teleconference where instead of participating physically, you could call in and just keep the YouTube going, but on mute, and just call in with your telephone. I think what we found was prior to COVID, that was the best way that we were able to participate remotely and electronically. But by our next council meeting, which is April 13, we will have all had the opportunity to get vaccinated. We would still participate with masks, and we would have physical distancing at the dais. What we'd likely do is have Joel with us at the dais, but any other participating staff would just be in the chambers and approach the dais as they, as participating citizens to be heard. We would have at the podium, and we'd just wipe it down. That'll be the new normal for a little while, so we might as well rip the Band-Aid and get it going. And so I am proposing that we do that on April 13th, unless there is fierce opposition to that. Ronnie?
What's the time frame after you're vaccinated until you're immune?
Generally accepted as 2 weeks after your second vaccine.
What I thought. I won't be there.
I won't be there either.
Okay.
And one thing I just wanted to check in is I've gotten some compliments since we've been meeting on Zoom about how people can hear us all a lot better than when we were in the chamber. So the one concern that I just have is we might just need to do like a test run since we'll all be masked, and already it was a little bit harder to hear sometimes with the mics, depending on how, we probably just all have to be more careful about being right at the mic when we're talking, just because the mask muffles some.
Yeah, another data point, Mayor, is that a couple of other organizations where we've been doing hybrid things, it depends on how the audio system is set up outgoing. And because we have that group mic, it might work okay. But typically you can hear some people very well if they happen to be near a microphone, and you can't hear others. So it is a bit of a problem. And also the time delay in YouTube is a big hassle.
Yeah.
So let's experiment with it beforehand if you want to try it.
I'd be a lot more comfortable waiting one more meeting. Then I would be, completely okay.
Okay. Karen?
I'm ready to go when you are. And I also have been participating in hybrid meetings at the county council, and it has seemed to be very effective with that option. So hopefully we can still continue to have some people Zoom in, and also and then have people live.
Caitlin? Sorry, go ahead, Karen.
I was gonna just ask, so if is there a way, are we going to all be masked at the dais? I mean, if we have 6 feet between us,
Yeah.
even after we're vaccinated?
Oh, good question. Well, the mask mandate that the county passes would require us to continue to be masked until, if they decide to extend it past April 10th. If the county doesn't pass the mask mandate and we as a city decide not to have it, then we would not have to wear the masks at the dais.
But if we're asking people to wear their masks in City Hall and we don't, that's not a consistent message.
The other thing you would have to bear with is if the public was coming in to give public hearing or comments, you would have to wear it for their sake as well.
Right. I guess what I should have said is the point at which we decide no masks are required in City Hall, whether it's us or the people,
right?
We would be masked or not masked based on that policy. Caitlin?
I just like to, well, I will be prepared to when I miss meeting in person. And it does seem like hybrid meetings can go either way. Seems like maybe everyone being on Zoom, even if they're in person with headsets to avoid sound bleed is one way, but I don't know if there's other ways, like given the audio system ability at town City Hall. When we were talking about the ULCT conference, their requirements for participation are 2 weeks post-vaccination or a COVID test within a negative COVID test within a limited period of time. So I don't know if that might also be another way to conduct in person, but maintain safety for everyone in the room. It's not a big airspace. The ceiling's not that high. It doesn't really facilitate good cross ventilation with outside air, which is another way to create indoor safety. So I just encourage you all and us to keep thinking about ways to move forward with it, but really optimize for safety in this transitional and unknown time.
Well, based on this feedback, it feels to me that we need to hold off until the April 27th meeting, just to ensure that all members that have chosen to vaccinate will have been vaccinated and will be past the 2-week waiting period. And so, all right. So that is our game plan, April 27th. We will be set to resume meeting in person in the council meeting, and it will be the new normal. And we will provide accommodations for people to participate remotely. And what that looks like is to be determined. I do share the concern of noise of the hybrid meetings that I've attended. They can get, I struggle with everyone being able to participate and be present and be heard. So, yeah, so I just want to make sure that whatever we decide to do, it's the best for participation, especially among us as a council. So, all right, that's that. Moving on to agenda item 6, mayor and council reports. I will go first. I was going to sing Santa Claus is Coming to Town, but for John Curtis, I'm going to not do that and save you all the joke. John Curtis is coming to town, And Mary McGann of the County Council is actually hosting him and his staff for this visit. A couple of things. Mary would like to invite our council to 2 of the activities. One is a hike with the congressman to Dalton Wells and the new Utah Raptor State Park. The other is a bike ride on 128 on the path along the Colorado River. The hike is, oh gosh, I'm not going to give out all the juicy details, but in general, let's see. The hike is Wednesday morning. The bike ride is Thursday afternoon. If you would like to participate in either one of those events, please do. Apologies. Please do contact Mary McGann. Let her know you'd like to attend. She'll give you the details. And then, of course, everyone is welcome and encouraged to attend the town hall Wednesday evening at Star Hall. I believe it's 6 o'clock. Is that correct? Is anyone? I'm pretty sure it's 6 o'clock at Star Hall on that Wednesday evening. It's a bummer because it's during spring break and some of us take off with our children at that time. But have no fear, he will be back. What I've appreciated most about this congressman is his willingness to have town halls and be present. So that is that update. And what have I done? I attended a Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments retreat. We talked about economic development. It was at the in Green River at the John Wesley Powell Museum. Super cool place to meet if you're ever planning a business meeting. It's in the basement. It's a great place to meet, especially for regional meetings. 4 counties were present, and we talked about economic development. The reason why I wanted to bring this up is that we had a very robust conversation about a city's role versus a county's role in economic development, and specifically in the state of Utah. And the way that the state is structured and the pattern, while it does vary from region to region, the economic development really rests in the counties. And then the cities sort of participate depending on their size. We have determined that Carly is going to be the point person for economic development and diversification topics with the city in her role as deputy city manager. And so while it's certainly not her only role, we do now have her as a point person to oversee those conversations. So any economic diversification or development activities should be run by her. And she will be sitting on boards as such and participating and working closely with Elaine. And Elaine was present at that meeting. What else? This is not a board that I sit on, but I did want to just share a meeting that I had with a gentleman who is part of the development firm that's working with Sitla for the developing the property around USU. He showed me a rough draft of the development plan. Lots of higher density housing, very little commercial, and in an area that was formerly looked at as sort of high-end homes that would potentially be nightly rentals. There is a consideration to build a Ritz-Carlton-like hotel, sort of in the back behind USU's campus. I shared some thoughts that I had with him, but I did want to put it on all of your radar that those are the current plans that Sitla has for development, as that was a big topic when we were talking during our strategic plan. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that was, I don't have a draft to share. He said that he was going to be very transparent with us with what they decide to develop. And so I'm hopeful we can get him to the city council for our meeting so that we can be very aware of what Sitla plans to do on that parcel. As we know, we don't really have much control over it. Okay, handful of admin meetings. Fun projects. I just wanted to share some other fun projects to keep you all informed. First things first, we are developing a Moab app. We're doing it through a company called Poly. It's incredibly affordable for us as a city, and it's going to be very exciting as it's going to be an app where we get to curate the content and really draw from all the resources. So remember when I was talking about a parking app, this is like a parking app times 1,000. So we'll be able to utilize it for parking and other things. Lots of widgets and the developers, it's a whole development team. So it's a very exciting project for us, and more soon on that. Also, I'm working with USU on the data collection. We're going to try to finalize a contract where we're going to be working with them to collect data on recreation user groups, like I shared before. And then I'll let Mike share a little bit about measuring noise on the roadside. But that's been a fun project. Also, there was topic that was going around about whether or not we would write a letter of support for a shuttle bus between us and Salt Lake City. So I just wanted to see, it seems like we're moving in the direction that we want to do a letter of support. Will you raise your hand if you have opposition to us executing that letter? Does anyone oppose executing that letter? Okay, Carly and I will work together to draft that and get that letter off. Letter of support. Are there other letters of support that I'm forgetting? There are. Karen, you're muted. You just wanted me to say that once during this meeting?
Just once. No, it's already coming up. But I was going to say that there is already a letter of support at the county for that shuttle system. And I was going to try to do that, and things happened, and I did not follow through with getting the letter that the county wrote for support of that shuttle bus.
Carly, will you grab that letter and make it city worthy, and we can have our letter of support for that effort?
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Okay, let me know if there are any other letters of support. It's been a letter writing kind of month. And I think that's it from me. Sorry, that was a little longer. Mike, you're up.
Don't you want to do Ronnie next?
Oh, is Ronnie next? Yes. Yes, that's right. Sorry.
We should probably play musical chairs when we get back in a physical room. But
oh my gosh.
I'll try and make this brief, but sadly there have been many meetings. We had our EMS Special Service District meeting on the 16th of March, and just a few little things. Interesting graphs out there. You can look at the call volume, say back in 2017, and for a long time, graph held at about 50, 60 calls, say for February, and we are now up in the 90s. So some interesting things going on. I briefly mentioned to you guys, they're starting this new community paramedics program called Moab Integrated Healthcare. Exciting things about possibilities working with Dr. Mack at the hospital to help people in their homes. And not only that, but the Huntsman Cancer Institute has reached out to EMS to see if there might be the possibility of helping some cancer patients in their homes with some things. So staff have been looking into whether that's going to be possible. All the staff has been vaccinated. The education director, Matt McCune, has worked on the capability for EMS to start helping the health district and the hospital give vaccines if need be. There are probably other things, but we did get a 2020 presentation from Director Andy Smith that was really good. So he was going to get in touch with you, Mayor, and you, Joel, about getting on an agenda, maybe to do a 10-minute presentation, just because a lot of good information in there. And I should also mention, we did have our first meeting with the group I was asked to sit on for the Utah League of Cities and Towns that's giving out $6 million to rural EMS organizations across the state. And there are like 40 of those. And so I can report more soon because we're going to have our second meeting at the end of this week. But it kind of looks like the bulk of that money will be split equally among the 40, with some going to technical training programs. But we'll see if anybody changed their mind in the next meeting. We had a systems of care meeting for Grand County and San Juan County, the regional advisory committee. Just a reminder, they do a lot of work to try and keep families intact, so children who are struggling don't have to leave the community to go into residential care. And I just thought it was kind of a good little factoid to think about, that they pointed out this last meeting, that, you know, you could spend $23,000 a month, the state could, on keeping a child in residential care. But one of the goals of this program is to keep them in the home. So they're really trying to work, like, you know, if you took that same money and you invested it in the community for the needs that child had, it just opens up a lot of possibilities. And they really do find that most children really do want to stay in the home if at all possible. So they're just continuing to push to figure out what resources are in the community to help them do that work and how to partner with people. Carly and I, and I'll let her talk about it more, but attended a Mountain Town Solutions March 15th meeting. They're really trying to work to demystify climate action plans and kind of create, I'm probably gonna use the wrong words here, Carly, but kind of a guidebook to help communities, but that will also have pages from individual communities where they can highlight some of what they're doing. And the whole idea is to demystify, to help us all tell our stories in common language, to communities, to share tools, and there will be an education component as well. So they are asking communities to commit to dedicating 2 to 4 hours a week, and that could be a combination of council member and staff time. So I'll let Carly follow up as need be and see if we're signing up. I'm willing to, I don't know if I can do all 4 hours a week, Carly, but I'm willing to help some of the rest of you with some of that. But it sounded well worth it. Just a few other things. I was just gonna let you guys know about some questions I'm having, and then I don't know if Joel and Carly want to comment now or at a later date. I've gotten some complaints about events at the ballpark and not many people masking. So I know we don't enforce that, that's the health department, blah, blah, blah. But if you feel like there's any education that needs to happen there, any clarification, that's great. Also, you know, heard that we're having an off-leash dog problem over at Rotary Park. And again, enforcement is a struggle, but feel free to enlighten us, please. We've also heard repeated times from a resident who's concerned about fire and if our fire restrictions are still in place, or if we can put something in place, just given how fraught this year is. And finally, a thank you to staff. I have been trying for a long time. There are like 10 streets in the city that I had identified that, you know, some of them are multiple blocks and they have not a single speed limit sign. And especially now as we're moving with the reduced speed limit for OHVs, but just also people looking for ways through town, maybe with no speed limit on them. I want to thank staff because they're going through a list of these 10 plus streets that I've identified, trying to get them some signage. And finally, just an update for people on COVID, because I know there's been confusion about what you do if you're 16 or 17-year-old and you want a vaccine. And I did clarify with the health department, yes, you qualify for a Pfizer vaccine, but the health department does not have those. So they have places on their website to help you hook up with where you could go to get one if you are that age and want one. That was it. Thank you.
Real quickly, on the mask, that's a never-ending battle. We made all of the parents and all the participants sign a mask notice before they signed up for the leagues. We've hung up signs everywhere. We've literally even taken the step this year that everywhere we've painted a field in the middle of the softball fields, we've staked signs in the ground around the fields even. Like, there's just, some people aren't, I don't know that we can get the word out anymore. We send out emails to them as well, like short of just arm wrestling people for it. I don't know what else.
I think the main question I was getting from the resident was like, you know, is the city in a position where we might create a spreader event if there is a large function going on? And I felt like I should let someone else answer that.
Yeah, last year we in fall sports we couldn't get anyone to wear masks with about 3 games left in the seasons. We canceled the seasons. We kept sending out emails and couldn't get people to participate and do it, and so we eventually canceled the season because we just couldn't get people to comply. Ended up having to cancel winter sports based off of that because they were all indoor and we couldn't get people to wear them at all to begin with. So we definitely didn't dare have indoor sporting events because of that. We're doing spring sports now, and people have been doing a pretty decent job of staying spaced out. But you know, it's short of shutting it down again. I don't know what else we could do other than not hold any of those events.
Let us not forget that it was a volleyball game that actually was one of our super spreader events of the COVID season. Karen?
Oh, I'm just going to ask, you know, I know Ronnie has brought up the speed limit signs on the side streets many times over the last, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, 2 years, but I was curious, are we going for a consistent speed throughout the city? Is that, I don't know what staff has decided.
We weren't looking to change the speed limits because we have a lot of money invested in speed limit signs, and we just bought a whole bunch of OHV signs that are different to correspond with what the speed limit. They're all 10 miles an hour less than whatever the speed limit was on that street. So, and we have some really nice, flashy, expensive ones as well. But if we leave them, that's not a big deal. But we would have to replace signs, and we were just looking to go with what they were currently set at.
Oh no, I'm just curious. I mean, is everything going to be 20 or is everything 25? Because there is some discrepancies on some of the streets in town. I'm just thinking having the same is better than having different ones. That like
absolutely, that's a great question, Karen. My understanding, and I haven't looked into this, is that a lot of the speed limits in this town are actually set by ordinance. They actually push stuff through and they were passed by ordinance. So I think if we were going to make that change, we would have to do it by ordinance rather than by administrative decisions, like in a lot of cities where it's done by an administrative action. So I can do some research and figure out whether or not some of them have been set by ordinance, and if so, if we want to change them, we'd have to just pass an ordinance that says it's 20 on all streets off of Main, you know, or something like that, excluding these roads, 30 on maybe 4th East or whatever. I'm not saying
right.
But yeah, we can definitely look into that and see if that's what it is. And if it's not been passed by ordinance, then administratively we can set those speed limits.
Regardless, could we just move forward with creating an ordinance that would set the speed limit where we'd want it to be?
Absolutely, we can. That's entirely, if that's the policy of this direction of this council, we absolutely can do that.
I mean, would that be a cleaner methodology?
It definitely can be, right? If we want all streets to be 20 or 25 or whatever they are throughout town, then that's simple. A lot of cities or towns have different like thoroughfares that are like as higher speed than maybe the side streets, so they can't really just do one overarching. But there are cities and towns that do one speed for anything that's off of the highway running through the middle of town. So it's definitely something we can do.
Could we do an ordinance that specifies 20 everywhere you go except for, and then we would list those 5 or 6 arterial roads that would potentially be then 25?
So what you would most likely do, Mayor, is you would say 20 on all city streets except unless otherwise posted. And then we would pass, or we would go in and post, like if we wanted other streets 25 or 30 or 35, whatever you wanted it to be, we just do those individually. So we just pass one overarching and then say this road we're going to do 30, this road we're going to do 30, this road. And we could do it all at once, but as we adjust it, we could put language in there that allows us to change it without having to run a new ordinance.
And it's possible we could get away with some sign swapping if we did go in that direction.
Absolutely.
Some 20s might go 25 or, you know, vice versa.
Yeah.
Council, are you interested in that action?
I would just have to go in and pay the chief a ticket every day because I can't go drive that slow.
Well, you drive the arterial road. I mean, you do the 191. I'm thinking 4th East, 5th West, 4th North, Mill Creek, 300.
I think what would help the conversation, Joel, is, I mean, in doing all this and noticing, you know, like 6 blocks that had no sign, right? The entire street has no sign, is also a map. And if the city doesn't have one, I mean, I'm willing to drive around and make you one. But it is interesting to look at the funkiness of what's where currently. Yeah.
Well, and you're saying you want to have a speed limit set for those roads. If it's not posted, then technically there's not a speed limit.
Well, my argument would be that they should be treated like the other residential side streets, which appear to be 20.
Okay.
And so what Joel is saying is that we would, if it's not an ordinance, then we need to do that via ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, no, I think the conversation would be good.
So would you support it, like staff bringing forward an ordinance that would honor what you're asking?
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I think part of the conversation everyone needs to be aware of is now that we have these OHV speed limits, you kind of create indirect designated routes by having some streets that have a higher speed limit. So yeah, so if we can just have a map at that time, you can kind of understand, because there's a lot of revving of engines that happens as people try to get off a slower street and go onto a faster one.
We can do all of that.
Thanks, Ronnie, for bringing that up. Anything else? That's it from you? Okay. God, it's been so long. Who's next? Tony. Mike.
At last week's Moab Area Watershed Partnership meeting, the USGS presented their latest Journal of Hydrology study, which says that we're withdrawing from the Glen Canyon Group Aquifer, where everybody gets their culinary water from, at the rate it's being recharged right now. They presented it as a pretty airtight case. There were some questions asked, but no one challenged it. Neither did Mark Stilson, who's a DWR engineer, and obviously his boss, who's the state water engineer. And together with the giant new subdivisions that Nora pointed out to us, and I think it's all the more reason for the city to get serious about being more careful about how much water we allocate, because we don't want to go to where Cedar City was some years ago, and they're still trying to dig themselves out of a bucket. We don't want to do that. So that was interesting that nobody challenged it. And Mark wants to wait for the groundwater management plan to conclude. That could take a couple of years. And meanwhile, we've got a whole pile of new subdivisions already being withdrawn possibly. So I'm going to keep that in front of you guys' radar, because it's something I think we need to do something about sooner rather than later. And the second thing is robot noise measurement gizmo. You guys have seen not speed traps, but signs along the side of the road that tell you you're going 35 and 30 and telling you you're over the limit if you are. So same sort of thing, except measure noise. So I've spent some money having a great time doing, just like I'm going back to work, kids. And I want to thank Emily for making her son Oscar available. This kid is something else, I want you guys to know. And so he's introduced me to some prototyping kits. They're going to be real useful. So right now we're going to I've already bought a basically 3 foot by 1 foot bright outdoor sign that displays noise as people go by, and a little nifty little computer and a microphone, the noise meter. But anyway, to make all this happen. So we're having a good time doing that, and I'm looking forward to actually getting it up and running in the months to come. I could use some more money. It's all coming out of my pocket right now, but and Chuck, I don't think you're listening anymore. Joel, maybe you would know. I could use a the nifty little orange painted mobile trailers that the city pulls behind trucks, to move the speed limit signs around and all that kind of good stuff. I'd love to have one of those, and it's going to need some solar panels and all that to charge it, just much like the highway signs you see now. If you could find one cheapie that we could borrow for a while, that would be great.
Okay, I'll look into Public Works and see what we got, what we can deliver.
That'd be wonderful. I'm done.
I'm just going to plug for Mike, because at the last meeting when he said he wanted to do this sign, he's executing the sign. And what's really special about this sign is that we've been talking a lot about education, and what we've heard loud and clear from the UTV community is that they don't know if the noise that they're emitting actually exceeds our noise ordinance. And so this is a really valuable education tool. And so I'm just really grateful to Mike for moving forward with it, because there's really not a product like this on the market.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting.
Yeah, we could be starting a new business here if we wanted to. Maybe
Yeah.
headed that way.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mike. And who's next?
Tawny.
Thank you. Tawny, you're up.
I won't be very long. I didn't go to the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District meeting because we were in strategic planning. But I did attend a closed meeting for them last night. And let's see, I attended the museum meeting, but I was a little bit late because I was officiating a wedding. But we had a finance committee report and a budget report, and just some discussion about where the museum is headed in regard to grants and their county allocations, and some of the grants that are available to help the museum continue on. And we had good discussion about storage space, workspace, and what kinds of future workspace the museum will require. And I do believe that at the next meeting, we will have a couple of new board members. So that's interesting because our board the museum board has gotten kind of small. I attended also the Housing Authority meeting, and all those notes are sitting on my desk at work. But we heard from the Land Trust and some of the challenges that they have encountered at Arroyo Crossing, with just in regard to some of the architectural sites that they found. And initially they had the architect, did I say architectural? Archaeological sites. I'm sorry. And they had the archaeologists there for the entire development. But as people started to try and close on their loans, they require the archaeologists to be on site for each home site. So it added a little bit of angst and cost to homeowners trying to close on loans. And so there's been some frustration with trying to get things going on that front. And I do believe that is it.
Thank
and
you,
I do know the difference between an archaeologist and an architect.
Little difference. Karen?
I was invited by Mary McGann to sit on a Colorado River Pathway group to try and go after federal funding to complete the 128 bike path, and invited our kind city attorney to join in on that group as well, knowing that she has quite a bit of experience on active transportation. And so there were quite a few strategic meetings that took place over the last 2 weeks, and we will be presenting a ordinance tonight. And then the Chamber of Commerce participated in the first lunchtime solution-based discussions on current hot topics. The first discussion was in regards to OHVs, and some of the ideas that were brought up at that meeting were routes, signage, trailheads, and education. So now over the next 4 weeks, more or less, we're going to be asking chamber members to come to the table to delve a little deeper into each one of those topics. And then we're going to be starting this Friday, March 26th, and the topic is going to be noise. And there will be a new topic once a week for almost 4 weeks. The next one will be education, and that will be held Monday, April 5th. And then I also wanted to mention that the annual Chamber Golf Tournament will be held April 16th, and there's still time for businesses or individuals to sign up, and proceeds from this event, it will help with 2 $1,000 scholarships for 2 college-bound seniors. So it's a fun time and a great way to raise some money for some kids. And then I had a discussion with UDOT, and they wanted us to know about the TIF active program. This is the second year that it is in existence. It's a little different than some of the funding that we have gone for in the past, but this is programming that funds active transportation infrastructure, and it can be in the millions of dollars. Jeff Saunders was going to get a hold of Chuck, and I'm not sure if that happened or not, but applications for that are due March 31st. It's a very simple application process, and it just has to be a project that is designated in a plan. So, and I know we have quite a bit of infrastructure needs that would fit that bill. I joined Elaine Gisler last week, and we drove Highway 191 to scope out a preliminary route to offer the consultants for the shuttle study that is being currently conducted for the Arches Hotspot funding. And that was it.
Thanks, Karen. And Kaylin. You're up.
Figured that one out. So I attended one meeting. It was the Solid Waste Special Service District. And we have, for the past several months, the district's been working on a purchase of monument waste. It's a somewhat unusual deal in that it's a government entity purchasing a private business. Private business purchases are often conducted under a non-disclosure agreement, and this one has been as well up to a certain point, especially at the request of the seller, which we agreed to and honored. And I think it's going to be a great thing. The most recent district study on strategic planning recommended that the district purchase Bob's Sanitation, but at that time, the district really didn't have the staff capacity or wherewithal to undergo that sort of expansion. But the owners of Monument Waste approached us. They're seeking to exit the Moab market, and they knew that the district might have an interest in that. So the board and manager, along with a team of consultants, have thoroughly analyzed the economics and potential of this deal, and it looks quite favorable in terms of the overall economics of the district. Much of the profitability in the waste industry is in the hauling of the waste rather than the landfilling of it. But it's going to be a big jump for the district, and so I've given quite a bit of thought as to like the role of a public versus private entity running this. And it seems like there's advantages both ways. For-profit businesses are generally often considered to be more efficient, but they also have to make a profit. And given the small size of our community and our isolation, we tend to have a single trash hauling or solid waste hauling service, which kind of operate, not entirely, but almost a virtual monopoly, which is unfortunate. But by moving it into a public entity, that would increase the transparency and accountability to the customers. There has been a move over the past decade for a lot of consolidation within the solid waste industry. Companies buying up other ones and gradually becoming larger. Republic Waste is one of the largest players in the country, and they have a massive landfill in East Carbon County. So if they were to move in here, one of the risks is that they would just haul to their landfill, where they have a great economy of scale and basically substitute the increased transportation costs for the reduced disposal cost, and the cost of an early landfill closure here would be significant, as well as moving jobs out of the community. So, and also having an integrated landfill management or integrated waste management under one public entity would allow us to advance our sustainability goals under waste management. So it's got a lot of potential, and we're very excited about it. We're working with Science Public Finance on bond funding for it, and presuming that all goes well, we'll be closing at the end of April. The one direct tie-in for the city is that the district will need to assume the current franchise agreement between the city and Monument Waste. And the thought is that it will just move over and operations will continue seamlessly as they have been for the city as well as all of the customers. Mayor.
Can I ask you a couple of questions about this? This is huge news. First question is, what about curbside recycling? I don't want to lose my curbside recycling. Is that?
Everything's staying as it is. That is a condition of the franchise agreement. We're only a year in. So that will continue as it has. I've briefly discussed some ways that it could be further optimized with Dan, but that requires a lot more analysis. And it would, any changes would be negotiated with the city.
Well, I'd love optimization on the receiving side, for sure. The second piece is, this is exciting, and I appreciate you outlining all of the like pros and cons of this transaction. I don't think that the special service district will fail. However, things happen, and if there were to be failure, would we as a city be required to take on the business of hauling waste? Like what would happen if something were to transpire where the special service district wasn't able to haul trash? Do you know?
Well, there's penalties built into the current contract to incentivize that not happening.
Joel, do you know the answer to that?
I don't with that type of a special service district. Usually if a special service district fails, the requirement or the operation of that district falls to the entity to which it lies.
Right.
And so, but where with this service, none of the special service district lies within the city. So, but I don't know that this would fall to a minister or to a local government. I don't know. I'd have to look into that. I'm not aware of any special service districts that are hauling. I'm not saying that they don't. I've just never worked with any. So I don't know that. I know someone we can talk to about that here in a few minutes.
Well, that was really awesome. Thanks, Kaylin, for reporting out on all that. That's big news.
Right. And that's a good question. And I encourage you to continue to raise that in others as we move forward in the next month. I think Karen had a question.
I did, Kaylin. Thank you. I was just curious with this acquisition. I mean, how many employees currently does Monument Waste have?
Approximately 20.
Oh, wow. And so are they amiable to coming over and working for the special service district? I mean, is that gotten that far?
Oh, it has. The solid waste district manager and the monument owner met with the monument employees and fielded questions from them. And it seemed like their concerns were primarily, as I understand it, around wage and retaining benefits that they'd built up over the years. Some have been with Monument for quite a long time. And so it is very much the intention of the district to find a way to merge the entities that honors that and keeps everyone happy, because obviously the people that work there are one of the biggest assets, and we want the transition to go smoothly. And there's just, yeah, without objectifying the workers, that human capital is critical.
Absolutely. And then I'm curious if is there discussions about making it a requirement for county residents? I know most of them do already subscribe to trash, but I mean, will it now become a requirement as a county resident?
That has been discussed with the county, and my understanding is that the county council administrator wasn't necessarily interested in working on that and felt like the district had enough authority to do so on its own. And so we have discussed that, but then this opportunity came up, and that has basically taken all available staff time. So I imagine it could be considered in the future, but just haven't had the bandwidth to think about it for the last few months.
And why do they want to sell?
Retiring. They want to spend more time with family, is the reason they've given. They also, and they also have other solid waste interests over in Mesa County, Colorado. So I don't think they're getting out of the solid waste business entirely, is my impression, but maybe I shouldn't speak more, but they can spend more time with family. They're not so spread out.
I guess my question is there any chance they're trying to hide problems that we're not aware of that would get us into trouble later on?
Well, as I mentioned, we have a team of consultants. They've done a quality of earnings analysis. They've appraised the assets. They've been through the books. So this deal has been vetted pretty heavily. So not saying that it's not impossible, but we're working with people that have been doing these sorts of transactions for decades.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was a heavy topic.
Yes.
Thick topic.
Before we move off of it, I just want to thank Dan and Bonnie for all they've done for the city and at Monument Waste. They're excellent partners that we work with all the time. They're constantly in contact with us, letting us know when the pandemic started in March and April of last year, and a lot of people were unemployed and could not pay their bills. They continued to provide services despite non-payment. They've been excellent community partners and excellent members of our community, and I just want to thank them both for what they've done for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Joel. Okay, it's 8:30 and we are moving on from our reports to the approval of minutes. We've got March 9th, March 10th, and March 11th in front of us, our regular meeting and our special meetings. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the minutes for March 9th, 10th, and 11th.
Thank you, Karen.
Few corrections and Summer's already addressed those. So
hold on, is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Ronnie. I'll take your second. Discussion. Karen, you've got some corrections.
I did, and Summer took care of them immediately. She's awesome.
She's got mine too. Thank you, Summer.
Okay, good. Any other discussion? I'll call for the vote. Ronnie?
Aye.
Caitlin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Connie?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We are at old business 8-1. However, with the blessing of this council, I'd actually like to move this agenda item to the end of our meeting. I feel like the feedback that I've received is that we really need to talk about some of this new business before we address this old business. And more importantly, we'd like to have a conversation about the resolution on the bypass before we talk about the ILA. So unless anyone objects, I'm going to move 8.1 to the end of our meeting. And we will move on to new business, 9.1, proposed resolution 9-2021, a resolution confirming the appointment of Ben Billingsley as the city finance director and authorizing the mayor to execute an employment agreement. Do we have Ben with us? We do. Welcome, Ben. Welcome to your first city council meeting. You're muted. What a way to start. You did that for Karen, didn't you? So she'd feel better about her muting.
There we go.
There we go. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm actually glad that there was a waiting room here in Zoom. I think there would have been a little too much excitement going on during the discussion of the solid waste district. So I'm that's been my passion for the last year. So that's
Your passion is solid waste. Amazing.
Yeah, it's something that's often overlooked in the sustainability of a community. So as sustainability is discussed, I would encourage that to be a major component of the discussion.
Wow, look at you already winning favors with that comment. Well, it's really nice to have you with us. We really all look forward to getting to know you better. Thank you so much for going through the process of applying and being interested, and then thinking really deeply about whether or not this is the right fit for you. We appreciate that. Moab is a really unique place to live, and thoughtful consideration is certainly important. So thank you so much. Council, do you have any comments or questions for Ben? Mike? No, you want to make the motion, but you're muted. Oh, drat. Still
Sorry
muted.
about that. Sorry about that. There I was going to be so fast on the ball. Will you accept a motion, Mayor?
Yes.
I move to approve Resolution 09-2021, confirming the appointment of Ben Billingsley as the city finance director and authorizing the mayor to execute an employment agreement between the city of Moab and Ben Billingsley.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Tawny? Thank you. Discussion.
I have a question. Assuming Ben is starting, I mean, we'll see after the vote, but I'm guessing it'll be good. I was curious when he starts.
Good question.
April 5th.
Okay, thanks. And
just around the corner.
It is.
So Ben, did you find a place to live?
There are some promising prospects at this point. I've heard this is the kind of the baptism by fire is finding housing is the first major step, and I've got a temporary solution, and hopefully soon we can find a more long-term permanent solution. So
I hope it's not a van down by the river.
luckily it's not, although I think Karen did offer a van, so I did appreciate that as an option.
Awesome. Okay, well, seeing that there's no further discussion, I will call for the vote. Tawny?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Karen?
Muted.
Aye.
Kaylin?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Ben, welcome to our team.
Thank you very much. I'm excited.
You're welcome to stick around, but you're also welcome to take off since employment doesn't start till April 5th. Take this time while you can. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Agenda item 9.2, proposed resolution 6-2021, a resolution approving the townhome plat application for the 3rd Street Townhomes property located at 116 South, 300 East, Moab, Utah 84532. We do have planning staff with us. I would entertain a motion or discussion if needed.
Mayor, I move that the City Council approve Resolution 06-2021, a resolution approving the townhome plat application for the 3rd Street Townhomes property located at 116 South, 300 East, Moab, Utah 84532.
Thank you, Kaylin.
I would second.
Thank you, Karen. Discussion? Ronnie?
I just had a question for Corey and Nora. So the only thing that confused me about this was sorry, I was going to scroll down to said language. Oh, where it says in our agenda summary that the item defined as townhome plat does not have specific code or procedures. And so I was just wondering if that was a norm, or is that like a flag to me as a council member, like, oh, maybe we need some code for that. So that was my only question to you.
Nora, if you want to explain
Sure,
that.
I'll take a shot at that. Our code is unclear, and state law, I look back at state law frequently, and I think it requires approval by, it all depends on what you actually call it. It's basically just a record of it's a record of survey that's recorded. The project itself has already been approved and is in the works, but so this is just the record of survey that gets put on top of that allows people to then purchase the products. And our code is inconsistent. And so we decided with this one, we took it both to the Planning Commission and the City Council because we weren't sure. We have a couple more record of surveys coming up that are like lot line adjustments, where it's really clear in state law that it's the City Council that's the approving authority. So those will just be brought to you guys. But yes, when we do redo the code, it's on our list.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'm excited to see density in our R3 zone. I will say that. And no other comments. I'll call for the vote. Mike.
Aye.
Kaylin.
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 9.3, proposed ordinance 2021-4, a text amendment removing chapter 17.74 noise from the title 17 zoning of the Moab Municipal Code and relocating the noise provisions to title 8 health and safety by creating section 8.24 of title 8 health and safety. Is there a motion?
I'll make one. I move to approve ordinance number 2021-4, text amendment removing chapter 17.74. I realized maybe I don't need to repeat this. I could have probably just said move to approve, but I'm sorry, but I got started. From title 17 zoning. It's the last chance it might have to be in chapter 1774 of the Moab Municipal Code, and relocating the noise provisions to title 8 health and safety by creating section 8.24 of title 8 health and safety.
Thank you for the motion and the lightness. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion. This has been a heavy topic, so I actually do appreciate the lightness.
I just wanted to thank Kaylin for bringing this up, unless I'm forgetting who brought it up, but I think it was you, Kaylin, because wise suggestion. Thank you. It's nice to feel one is accomplishing something.
And I'd like to thank staff, because as I look through this, I realize that it's, even though it's sort of pro forma, there's still a chunk of work involved, even just to set up for the substantive changes. So thanks.
Yeah, tedious. Kudos, gratitude to staff for sure. And any other discussion? Okay, I'll call for the vote. Mike.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Connie.
Aye.
Kaylin.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 9.4, proposed ordinance number 2021-5, an ordinance defining the point in time at which the city of Moab formally initiates proceedings to amend its land use regulations. Is there a motion?
I move to approve ordinance number 2021-05.
Thank you, Kaylin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Karen. Discussion. None of it. Ronnie.
I'm just excited. Seems like another good thing that will make our lives easier and clearer.
Agreed.
You're very optimistic.
Councilmember
Yeah.
Dresser is actually right about this one. This one will make it easier for us. So.
Hey, I'm calling my mom. I was right for once. Okay.
Yeah, it seems like it'll give us the benefit of a tour with until in a limited way with every code change.
Yes. Okay. I will call for the vote. Whoops, just, oh. Ronnie,
Aye.
Tawny,
Aye.
Kaylin,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Karen.
I'm just kidding. I didn't have it on my list, but I thought I'd just check, make sure you're checking.
Oh, I mean, we only have one meeting to go, so we might as well throw out all the stops. Motion passes 5-0. 9-6, proposed resolution 8-2021, a resolution stating the city of Moab's position on Highway 191 bypass alignments and support for pursuing alternate tools for downtown Main Street traffic mitigation. What's happening?
You missed one. You missed 9.5.
What did I do?
The pathway is the next.
Oh gosh, I biked right by it. Sorry. Let me turn around. Thank you. 9-5, proposed resolution 7-2021, a resolution expressing support for pursuing the funding for and construction of future phases of the Colorado River Pathway located in Grand County, Utah. I'm sorry I moved over this because I'm so very excited about this letter. Is there a motion?
I will so move. Go ahead.
Mike, I'll take you as a first, and Tawny? Is there a
Oh,
second?
Tawny hadn't had a chance yet to do something.
Oh.
So go for it, Tawny.
I'm not territorial. I move to approve resolution 70-2021 expressing support for pursuing and funding for and construction of future phases of the Colorado River Pathway located in Grand County, Utah.
And just one small correction, it's 07-2021.
Oh.
I don't know the difference between an architect and an archaeologist tonight, Lori, so thank you.
At least you're not muted.
It's a long day.
Okay, so the motion is in favor of 7-2021. Is there a second, Mike?
I will second.
Wonderful. Discussion. Karen, did you want to speak to this?
I can, or Lori can. I mean, it's just, this is the last 5/8 of a mile that's to connect the bike path that already exists, but it's a very expensive portion. And it'll continue that continuation of the bike path, so you don't have to get on the road where there's no side area. It's very dangerous. There's a lot of users, and it just is going to help with the continuation and offer safety measures, which is very important.
And we just appreciate the council making time for this on the agenda. It is time sensitive. The Republicans and Democrats just agreed to earmarks. And so we're hoping to get this on the list of projects that would be earmarked for our local community. And there's a lot of support for this from our federal agency partners, of course, the county. And so it's very exciting, though, even though it's a lot of money, there potentially could be a significant amount of federal funds. And the county is pursuing other grants so that this would, even though it's a big ticket item, there could be lots of pots of money that could really make it happen. So we appreciate the council considering it in a tight time frame.
And it is by design that we will be biking with John Curtis next week on this very path. So very exciting. Any further discussion?
I just have a curiosity question. Do any of you guys working on this now that, in the RTP, we discussed, the beyond the gap, also the way to Castle Valley, does that have a price tag? Do we know what that is? I should actually probably go look in the RTP. Never mind.
Well, actually, Ronnie, that study hasn't, it's in the plan. There is a plan to go further. And that was done back, actually when the whole bike path was initiated, but the engineering studies haven't happened, and
I'm sure it's than the old figure anyway. Okay, no, thanks. Just, I figured if this was 8.5 million, I would prepare myself. But I was also very impressed in the BLM letter about how much money was raised for, the former bits. So thanks to everybody who worked on that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I'll call for the vote. Kaylin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Tawny?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. 9-6. Proposed resolution 8-2021, a resolution stating the city of Moab's position on Highway 191 bypass alignments and support for pursuing alternate tools for downtown Main Street traffic mitigation. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Thank you, Kaylin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ronnie. Kaylin, thank you for your work on this.
Thank you. And it wasn't just me. I was the ringleader, but a number of people contributed and edited. So the UDOT funded downtown plan and bypass study seemed, in my opinion, to lean pro bypass. And yet the latter's projection of downtown traffic condition was still that in 9 years in 2030, conditions would be much like 2018. Obviously better than otherwise, but still not creating a congestion-free or bucolic downtown experience on Main Street. And as I hear from everyone, would like a pleasant, vibrant, and activated downtown. And I think the city can and should play an important role in facilitating that, but off Main. And as long as we have this silver bullet lurking out there, it seems like that siphons off a lot of our creative energy and resources. The resolution could not and does not presume to eliminate any bypass ever. But if our intention is to send a clear message that the bypass agenda that has been pushed for the past 3 years isn't acceptable, and that waiting for the 20 to 30 years for the silver bullet project to be completed while Main Street continues to suffer under current conditions isn't the way we want to go, that we want to pursue real solutions soon. I think an ordinance as strong as this is a necessary reset.
Well said. And I appreciate too that you reiterated that this is not a flush it down the toilet kind of resolution, but it's a point positive resolution. And I really appreciate the wording of that. In a comment that was made in Citizens to be Heard, it was stated that getting rid of this as an option was just a bad idea. So I'm grateful that we're saying that, it's not, eradicating it as an option. It's just, changing the way we look at our congestion. And I just took pause too at the comment that of the idea of fixing, Main Street. I want to be clear that we're not broken. We've got some noise issues to mitigate. We've got some traffic congestion to mitigate. We've got some quality of life issues that we are working on as a council. But Moab is a beautiful place to live and work and visit, and we're getting organized, and this resolution is part of that organization and forward thinking. And so I'm grateful for it being written, and I encourage us to continue to get organized around quality of life and, continuing to make things better for us as residents, because the better it is for us as residents, the better we can be of service to the visitors of our community. So thank you, Kaylin, so much for this work and the others that helped with it. Other discussion?
Yeah.
Karen?
I just would like to say that I do feel like UDOT has listened to us in our immediate issues, and especially with the Arches hotspot funding. And they've been actually proactive in trying to figure out a shuttle system for us, which was, I think, is going to help with traffic mitigation. I don't think it is forward thinking by taking this off the books, because like the discussions at our workshop, I mean, there's a good possibility that we might not be able to say yay or nay to a bypass. And I would really, really like future leaders in 20 years from now, when if our valley grows as much as it's expected to grow, and we keep hearing these conversations with, Sitla property and our own high density overlays and tourist visitation and freight traffic, that future leaders actually get to sit at that table, and they aren't dismissed because past leaders decided they didn't want to ever use the B word again. And so I am a little disappointed that that there's the feeling that we need to eradicate this, because this discussion has been happening for over 30 years. So but I like to say that having a seat at the table is more important than being lunch. So.
Oh, I guess I was just recognizing that we would have a seat at the table, that it isn't an eradication, but it's a point positives to make sure that we have resources where we are mitigating downtown congestion and not just continuing to lean back and say, well, let's just do a bypass, like what Kaylin has said.
I don't think, I mean, if I may, and I'm not to be disrespectful, but I don't think that's ever been the intent. And I think that we are doing everything that we can in the immediate. And I mean, the widening project, I mean, that's another attempt to try to deal with congestion. If that doesn't suffice, having a shuttle system, hopefully that's going to help, eradicate. If we have a very vibrant active transportation plan, and UDOT has been supportive of those projects. And I just, again, like we're asking for funding at the federal level, and we're able to do that because, for the river highway, the river pathway, the bike path, it's because it was on a plan. And so when somebody's looking to ask for funding, if it's not on a plan, then it's really difficult to say, oh, we want this now. So I just, taking it off the RTP or taking it, and there was discussions of having that, I mean, there's support to write a letter to UDOT to say that we don't even want it on the RTP plan. I think that I think that is short-sighted. That's where I'm at.
Other comments? Okay, I will call for the vote. Kaylin.
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Karen.
No.
Mike.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. And I'm bringing back the old business 8-1 reconsideration of an interlocal agreement by and between the City of Moab and Grand County with respect to joint planning for and funding of the Technical Planning Assistance Program funds cooperative agreement. Is there a motion?
I so move, if you don't require me to repeat all that, which I don't have in front of me. Thank you.
No worries. I'll take that as a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Kaylin, thank you. I'll take that second. Discussion.
After our last meeting, I sent some questions to Chuck and he answered them very well. And sounds like I talked to him today and he mentioned that there was one small wording change in the ILA that the county readily agreed to. So I'm ready to support this. And I think it's going to be a good process and good project and to continue our transportation planning work.
Ronnie?
I just had a process question. I mean, as said before in the last meeting, even though I wanted to table to get clarity on the bypass. So thank you everybody for clarity. I just had a process question. So I understand we approve this, the county can put out an RFP for qualified consultants. And then is anyone clear on, do the city and the county participate in selecting that consultant? Oh, I see Chuck's hand up.
Yes, the answer is yes. The city and the county will be co-project managers. One of us had to be the fiduciary agent, and we decided that since the county was kicking in more, they could be, but we've worked closely to develop the scope of work, and we'll be involved. In fact, if council approves this, we'll be helping to advertise for consultants on our website, as well as the county's website. So we'll be involved in it.
Okay, and the scope of work doesn't exist yet, right? I mean, this is so that we can actually develop one, right?
No, we have a draft scope of work. That's what Kalen, he had asked me specifically for it when the county was looking at it. So I shipped it to him back then, and that sentence he was talking about taken out. And that's why I last week I wanted to assure your last council meeting, there is no talk of bypass in the scope of work. and Kalen could attest to that too. And I'm happy to send this to council.
Okay.
If this is to get us started, because we have to have a draft. And typically the process is consultants will review the scope of work. We'll have a pre-bid meeting. We'll talk about questions. We'll select a consultant. Then we'll finalize the scope of work with around the budget typically, is a component of it.
And I don't necessarily anticipate disagreement between the city and county, but I just didn't know in agreements like this, if one of us wants something orange and the other one wants it green, do we flip a coin or what?
We've spent 6 months, city and county staff really fleshing this out, working with UDOT staff too when we had questions about it. They were part of this. We think this is a great way to save money, where we get $110,000 worth of UDOT money, and they're like a stakeholder, but the city and county are the project managers of this. This will be our plan, and they'll be our guests this time. That's the way I look at it.
Thanks.
Any other comments? Karen?
Yeah, I just, again, would like to say thanks for the opportunity to try to do some on the ground local planning. I mean, it's been a huge agenda item for all of us as council, and we haven't had the funds, and this is a really great opportunity to try to get that in place and help staff, to fulfill our goals. So I think it's a great thing.
Other comments? I will call for the vote. Tawny?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Kaylin?
Aye.
Okay, we are now almost to the end here. Approval of the bills against the city of Moab. Tawny, is there a motion?
I move to approve the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $1,312,320.93.
Thank you, Tawny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. Discussion? Call for the vote. Tawny?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Kaylin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. We are now in section 11 of our council meeting, the executive closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So move to enter closed session.
Thank you, Tawny. Ronnie, is that a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Tawny, for the vote.
Oh, yes. What?
So this is a yes. Kaylin?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
We will now move into closed session, so hang tight. Summer, do your